Ningen Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Raging Ningen Podcast with Mark
and Rich.
Welcome to today's show.
All right, so last time we had our first episode with Mark Polton as a guest, and I think we can all agree it went pretty well. Today it's just me and Mark. They're talking about, I guess, a subject of interest, and what I kind of had the idea for the first, I guess solo or duo episode is kind of talk about a subject that is not like super recent, but like kind of recent within these last couple months. So unfortunately, it kind of starts off with a sad note. The creator of Berserk, Kentaro Miura, I apologize if I'm saying his name, or maybe, unfortunately passed away, I think due to something with his heart. I think that things happened in like May. He was like a heart rupture or something like that, which is really tragic and really a shame. I mean, Miura wasn't a very public person. There's only, I think, a couple pictures of him out there. But from the general opinion is he was a pretty good guy and obviously fantastic, author and artist. So it's really terrible to lose him. And the whole Berserk, fan base was, making tribute videos and all that. And it's sort of, well, it's not funny, but it's sort of funny. But I was going to Renaissance Fair, and I'm like, you know what? I should dress as Guts. And this was a little before the announcement of his death happened. And then then he passed away, and I'm like, well, now I have to be Guts, just as sort of as a tribute. But kind of the main subject that I think has been on some of our minds is what's going to happen with Berserk. A lot of people are under the assumption that it's going to end because it's like, well, the creator's done. And I also brought a copy of one of the few mangas I have of it. It's probably one of my favorite covers. So we're all kind of not sure if the series will continue or end because the creator is gone. However, he has, I think, I've heard like at least 5 assistants that know how the story would end, and that's sort of something we want to talk about. And we actually, me and Mark actually have kind of conflicting, which is actually convenient for this podcast, opinions on what should happen next, if it should continue or if it should kind of just end it here. I'm kind of in the camp that thinks it should just continue, while Mark thinks, it should just end since the creator's passed away.
I think like just to elaborate a little bit more on my point for that, the biggest reason I have for that is because it's not in a situation where like Dragon Ball is, where like someone like Toyotaro can take over, because Akira Toriyama already completed the original manga. So Dragon Ball, for all intents and purposes, the canon anyway, is dead. It's done. No. So even slip of words, Freudian slip. Sorry. So even moving forward, Toei Animation was allowed to work with Akira Toriyama to work on GT, and he had a lot of input with that. But with like Yamamoto's like character designs alongside Akira Toriyama and things of that nature, it turned out pretty well in my opinion. Super is a similar thing. Akira Toriyama's not at the helm anymore, but he's still there. But his original idea of the manga, where it should end, is over, right? So I think in Kentaro Sensei's like his kind of situation, though he does have assistants that can take over for him, he never realized the ending to his manga. So it's kind of like the author's original idea has not been completely brought to fruition or formulated. You know what I mean? So anything that comes after at this point is either going to be based off his notes or based off pure guesswork. And I'm not sure if like you want to taint the original part with somebody else's ideas or versions of that, because unlike American comics, Japanese comics, though they have editors and things of that nature, it's generally a one-person show when it comes to like the ideas and the story and things of that nature. So unless they have like extensive notes and they come forward and say like, here, look, he finished the story already, we're just going to go straight word for word from what his story is and take like the best of our illustrators and try to match his style as best we can or give it our own flair. I think then I'd be okay with like them trying to take over the helm. But if he didn't finish the story in written form yet, then I'm not sure. Though it would be good and convenient for us to get an ending and a conclusion, I don't know if that's the ending that he would have chosen for his own manga. And like for someone that's been working on this book since forever.
Since 89.
Yeah, since 1989.
1 year before I was born.
that's like a pretty big deal, you know. That would be like if like Fist of the North Star started and then the mangaka passed away and then like you got the creator of JoJo's to finish it. You're getting an entirely different kind of manga out of that. Even though it's like heavily referenced on it and based on it pretty much, you're getting an entirely different thing, you know. So what do you say about that?
Gotcha. You know, those are all really good points. I do know that the assistants did say they do know how Berserk ends. I don't know in what form, like if it's notes or maybe it's just literally like, you know, just a thing that Kentaro wrote where it's just like, this is exactly, you know, like just the ending, nothing in between. So I think they do know how the rest of the story would go. I just don't know the full details, but that is the general thing I hear. I think, I feel like if anything, you know, if that was the case, if they didn't know, then I would say like, yeah, just cut it off here. But since they do, it's like, all right, maybe we should just at least see what happens, you know, if the endings, I mean, I'm sure like there'll probably be like some slight differences. Would have no idea what the differences would be unless they come out and say it, but you know, but yeah, I think that they are supposed to know how the story would go from here. I think like probably the bigger concern, and I think you even said this when we first talked about this, is probably because Kentaro was just such a awesome artist, and maybe, you know, just we don't know how good the assistants are in that department, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like the assistants tend to be pretty close to their creator because it's like Japanese style. So like the way they always do things is it kind of forms like they form like a bond with their assistants, and they're almost like an understudy. It's not like it's like an assistant like here, like they teach them exactly like the master's way kind of thing. Okay. That's why if you look at any of Akira Toriyama's assistants, even his longest running one that started with him on Dragon Ball that's working on this new movie, they pretty closely fit like their who they're emulating standards. I mean, even Akira himself, like I know this is about Morar, but even Akira himself, his style has changed so much over time. I know Mr. Kentaro's has also, because like from the beginning of Berserk to like where he was almost at, it's like it's a far cry. Like there's so much more detail, so much more better use of like shading and shadows, and like artists grow with time. You know, it's something that just naturally happens. So I agree. Like even if it's a little bit different, but like it still preserves the spirit of his artwork, I can forgive that. My thing just has to do with the writing. So for me, it just comes down to like Guts as a character, and it's like his relationships with like, you know, the rest of like the what was it? It's the Hawk, right? The Band of the Hawk.
Well, Griffith's new gang is called the new Neo Band of the Hawk. Guts' gang, I don't think they really have an official name.
Just like a resistance kind of thing.
Yeah, just like, you know, just got like Guts' new crew. That's
what I'm worried about is like if they have keynotes, like Guts dies in the end, and then like there's nothing to fill out in between, then I'm worried about like where that's going to get taken place, because what if it's like we get like their idea of like whatever fanfic they have in their head comes into the official manga, like, oh, like Guts is alone with Griffith, and now like Griffith pulls a, like, you know what I mean, like a femento on him, and you're like and Guts literally dies in the end. But you know, like I want to. These are all jokes. I'm just joking. But I mean, like, obviously, when you have your own idea of how a story goes, I'm sure me and you would write Dragon Ball completely set different than Akira Toriyama wrote it, like, especially with Super. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, and we see how, like, and I'm only using Akira Toriyama as a basis because it's as long. So much about him. And it's as long a running a series as Berserk, but it's so much more, like, complete, I guess, and it's had so many different iterations of it and so many different people's takes on it that we could see something like that be the roots of what Berserk could become, since like the main mangaka is no longer with us, right? So I mean, I have concerns with it, and like there's also a respect issue too that I have. Like, I know personally as a comic book artist, like I would want my story to be finished, but most people write their stories out before they start them. But, you know, ideas change along the way. There's been times where I've written pages, and then, like, when I start to get into the art of it, I'm like, you know, this I think would work better, and the whole story changes as a result of that, like kind of like a pseudo butterfly effect thing. So I don't know if you have a take on that, but for me personally, that's just like where I stand with that. But my mind is malleable. It really depends on like what everybody wants. But I want to be really respectful to the original author himself and his family, because unless he wrote it, I don't want to just see keynotes. I don't want to just be like, oh, Casca regains her like soul or whatever, or memory, and then like Casca goes back with Griffith because I know she does, but I mean, I'm just saying like as a keynote, and then she gets back with Griffith, and then like Griffith like falls in love with Guts, and like then Casca wants revenge on, you know what I mean? Like if there's like just keynotes, there's so much that can happen in between those that the whole story can change. So I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on like how much they know the story is going to continue. I guess because it's like what we heard wasn't like, from what I remember hearing, it wasn't like 100% in depth. Like, we know exactly note by note by note by note, like script that how it's going to end. We just generally know. But what I kind of thought they could do is just sort of like, I don't know if it's really orthodox, but maybe it's like kind of a test. Maybe they just do like, all right, so this is a normal volume of Berserk, and I'm reading it wrong.
Careful which page you're on.
I'm not going to actually show it. I'm just trying to find the table of I'm just trying to find out how much chapters are in a I don't know, a table of content. Come on. So let's say they do like 9 to 10ish more chapters. Make one more volume, and they and obviously they could do like they would say in loving memory and in honor of Kentaro Miura on like the first or last page, whatever. They kind of just see what the general reception is, because I feel like Berserk, at the very least, I can kind of say is it's not a very divisive fan base. Most people kind of seem to have the same opinion on everything. So they could just kind of see what the general reception is, and like if it's received well, then it's like, all right, let's go ahead and finish this. If it's not received well, then it's like, all right, let's just kind of end it here. It was just kind of a nice experiment, just kind of one last take, and then or this is getting a little more experimental. Maybe, well, I guess if it's a concern of art, then they could maybe they could adapt it in like an anime or a movie or a novel or something like that. I guess it's concerned of the writing though. Then that I'm not sure, but I figure there's at least ways just to kind of test it out, just to kind of see like how things are going, and if it's going good, then we go through with it. If not, then we end it here.
So apologies here in advance. The rest of the video was actually corrupted. And Rich and I had not had a chance to schedule another meetup before episode 3 was due out, especially with our own YouTube channels that we're both also doing at the same time. So I want to thank you guys for being patient. I feel like this is a pretty good place to end it right now anyway. We did go on to talk about some other things, but maybe we'll bring them up in a different video. So I apologize that this podcast was shorter than the rest will always be. Thank you for your patience, and I hope to see you on the next one. And with that being said, Subarashi.